You may think that a tropical island vacation is the most likely scenario for your next family adventure. But what if you're wrong? What if Mother Nature has other plans for you? What if she unleashes her wrath in a massive eruption of the supervolcano at Yellowstone National Park? Don't dismiss it out of hand. The last such eruption was 640,000 years ago, which means that we are long overdue for one. And when it happens, it will be devastating. So get ready to find out how this catastrophe will affect our world. First things first, don't expect an imminent eruption. The magma chamber beneath Yellowstone is slowly filling up with cooling magma. If you want to see the super eruption for yourself, you'll have to wait another 100,000 or even 1 million years. The most exciting thing about Yellowstone is not its geysers and hot springs, but its magma chamber located 6 miles beneath the surface. It contains a mixture of molten rock, hot solid rock, and gases under high pressure. As the magma chamber fills up, the pressure increases. When it reaches a critical point, the rock will no longer be able to contain it, and the magma will break through. That's how a volcanic eruption occurs. There are 3 scenarios for the consequences of a Yellowstone eruption. In the first 2 cases, the eruption will be relatively small, affecting only the surrounding area. For the third option, however, the entire planet will suffer. Yellowstone eruptions are divided into 3 types according to the amount of magma they eject. Lava flows are the most common type of eruption, spewing lava fountains, but also emitting large amounts of volcanic ash. At Yellowstone, there are several active lava systems where magma comes closest to the surface. One of them is the Yellowstone caldera, a huge crater formed by previous eruptions. A lava flow from here can travel tens of kilometers across the surrounding lowlands. Hot molten rock destroys everything in its path, burning down forests, melting snow and blocking rivers. Lava flows pose a direct threat to nearby towns. Lava Creek and Gardner, Montana, located just 30 kilometers from the park, could be covered with a thick layer of ash. Many buildings would be destroyed. Areas near Yellowstone would become uninhabitable for a long time. Wildlife would die off, and the economy would collapse. Just imagine how much damage a lava flow did to the Hawaiian island of Big Island in 2018. It destroyed 700 homes, and the cost of eliminating the consequences was estimated at more than $1 billion. Now imagine a similar scenario at Yellowstone, but 1,000 times larger. This is how the first type of eruption would affect the environment. But the second type, phreatic eruptions, poses a much greater danger. These are explosive eruptions without the emission of magma. They occur when hot steam erupts to the surface. Underground water turns into steam and builds up pressure until it breaks through the surface, causing an explosion. The consequences of such an eruption will depend on how close it gets to the surface. A shallow explosion will send debris high into the atmosphere, while a deep explosion will create a crater on the surface. So far, all phreatic eruptions at Yellowstone have been small, but scientists have discovered a deep magma reservoir 5 kilometers below the caldera. If the pressure from the magma chamber breaks through this layer, a large phreatic eruption is inevitable. The explosion will be heard thousands of kilometers away, and shockwaves will circle the globe several times. Ash will fall over a vast area, blocking the sun's rays. Even people in Australia will notice an eerie daytime darkness. Some of the ash will rise so high that it will remain in the atmosphere for years. The Earth's surface will darken, temperatures will drop. An ice age will arrive and the climate will change for decades. Plants will die, animals will freeze. Humans will have to huddle around fireplaces, pretending that it's a survival challenge game. But these are just children's games compared to the real catastrophe. We've been talking about the consequences of a super eruption, but it's been dormant for 640,000 years. All signs indicate that it's time for it to wake up and cause unimaginable devastation. During the last super eruption of Yellowstone, more than 1,000 cubic kilometers of material was ejected. The consequences were truly catastrophic. Ash fell not only over North America, but also over much of the northern hemisphere. Trees died within a radius of 800 kilometers, but the main blow was dealt by pyroclastic flows. These are mixtures of hot gas and solid particles that rush down the slopes at a speed of up to 300 kilometers per hour. Pyroclastic flows from Yellowstone would cover an area of about 50,000 square kilometers, destroying everything in their path. If this happened today, the consequences would be devastating. Ash would cover large areas of Montana, Wyoming, Idaho, and Canada. Cities like Bozeman, Billings, and Missoula would be buried under a thick layer of ash. Small towns would cease to exist. Some settlements might need to be evacuated. More than 100,000 people would have to leave their homes. Major highways would be cut off. More than 25 airports would be closed. The United States would face its largest domestic disaster since Hurricane Katrina, but this is just the beginning. Pyroclastic flows would destroy everything in their path. Native American reservations would be completely destroyed. National parks would turn into battlefields for survivors. Hunting bison, bears, and elk would become a necessity for those who managed to survive. Pyroclastic flows would extend beyond Yellowstone National Park and reach the Missouri River. Debris would move across the entire state of Montana. No building would be spared. Within a radius of 300 kilometers, the population of Montana would be decimated. Survivors would seek refuge in more distant states. Unfortunately, the disaster wouldn't end there. Yellowstone is a huge source of water. Its meltwater feeds many rivers and is home to tens of thousands of lakes and ponds. The melting ice would lead to catastrophic flooding, especially in the Yellowstone River basin. Water would rise by 9 meters, inundating Montana. Small towns along the river would be wiped off the map. Bridges would collapse, roads would be washed away, tens of thousands of people would have to flee inland. The floods would spread to North Dakota, South Dakota, and Nebraska. Entire agricultural areas would be submerged. People would desperately try to save their crops, but to no avail. Floods would also affect Wyoming and Idaho. More and more people would have to abandon their homes. Large cities would become overcrowded. And this is still not the most terrible consequence. The pyroclastic flows would reach the Great Plains. Millions of tons of debris would cover an area twice the size of France. Everything alive would be incinerated or buried under a layer of ash. Kansas, Colorado, and Oklahoma would suffer the most. The dust cloud would expand, covering the entire central part of the country. The sun would be blotted out by an impenetrable veil. Day and night would become indistinguishable. Temperatures would plummet. Grass, crops, and trees would wither and die. People would have to hide in shelters, wearing protective clothing and using respirators. Some believe that after such an eruption, Yellowstone should be renamed the Extinction Volcano. And this is not an exaggeration. There are no precedents of such strong eruptions in recent history. Scientists can only guess at the consequences. After all, the last time Yellowstone erupted on this scale was 640,000 years ago, long before the emergence of modern civilization. So, what do we actually know about the potential consequences? Volcanic ash would envelop almost the entire western United States. It would bury farmlands and clog waterways. The ash cloud would reflect sunlight, causing global cooling. Even Antarctica would not be spared. The temperature there would drop by 1 or 2 degrees. Global food shortages would occur. Crop yields would decline sharply. Plant diseases would spread. There would be a surge in the prices of basic necessities. Some countries might even initiate trade wars, trying to secure supplies of grain and meat. In short, the eruption of Yellowstone would have consequences comparable to those of a nuclear war, and if it happens today, every country would suffer. Let's hope that the magma chamber will calm down and humanity will not have to experience such a terrible test. It seems that nature has finally decided to stop tormenting people. The seismic activity in Yellowstone National Park has significantly decreased. Since August, the tremors have been getting weaker. Previously, several earthquakes with a magnitude of 3 or higher were recorded every day. Now there are only 1 or 2 of them a day. In addition, the number of deep underground earthquakes has increased. This may indicate that the magma is gradually sinking back into the mantle. In any case, for now, there is no super eruption to be expected. But this doesn't mean that it won't happen tomorrow. Therefore, it's best to prepare in advance.